As a chef or as any leader, do you have to be cruel to be kind? By that, I mean, if you are not hard enough on your charges, whether they're employees or soldiers or maybe even children, are they going to rise to their potential? Are they going to be the best that they can be if you have been too lax on them? These are tough questions, but we are going to tackle them on today's episode of the Restaurant Incubator. My name is Brandon Sharp. As an executive chef, I earned seven Michelin stars in a row. Now, as a chef owner and entrepreneur, I have 3 restaurants here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We've got Hawthorne and Wood, Proximo, and Bluebird. In the spring of 2000, I started as a commis at the French Laundry in Yountville, California. I worked as commis for a couple of months, and then a couple people above me left, and I got promoted to chef de partie of Garde Manger. So the Garde Manger station there picked up most of the first courses. The Canapé station picked up a couple of first courses, but Garde Manger picked up most of them. I was the second cook on the station. There were 2 cooks on each station. The restaurant is open 10 shifts a week, 3 lunches, 7 dinners. So I worked the 3 lunches and then Monday, Tuesday dinner. So as we got into that first summer, we got into tomato season. And one morning I come in and so I had come back from my 2 days off. I didn't know what the menu was going to be. There were no cell phones back then. Nobody could take a picture of my prep list and send it to me. So I was walking into what I didn't know. So again, I'm at the best restaurant in the world. I'm 3 months out of culinary school and I get to work that Friday morning, and on my prep list is peeled cherry tomatoes. The tasting menu item today is the tomato salad. So after some cursory explanation and instruction from the sous chef, I start blanching and peeling. I mean, I must have been I think it was an entire sheet tray. It wouldn't have mattered. It could have been a football field of cherry tomatoes. I was peeling cherry tomatoes so stressed, so anxious for 2.5 hours. And so normally the tasting menu item took me, 30, 45, maybe 60 minutes to set up. And I had another 3 hours to set up the rest of my station. Get there at 5:30 in the morning. Lunch starts at 11:30, right? So there's already 6 hours. So half of that 6 hours was already taken up by just peeling cherry tomatoes. I hadn't prepped the tomato coulis. I didn't know if the basil oil was ready. I hadn't gotten the croutons done, Parmesan tuiles, not to mention the 3 hours of other stuff on my station that needed to be done. And the clock is ticking away. I can't stop to eat breakfast. And I am sweating bullets. And I'm just getting kind of cursory, whatever help and kind of dismissal by the sous chef. And I'm still like in the weed out phase here where I'm the weakest cook in the kitchen. And I think that they are expecting me to quit in frustration and walk out. So, and here's so this is a picture of it from the French Laundry cookbook. There's all the peeled cherry tomatoes. There's the finished dish. Tomato coulis, crouton, peeled cherry tomatoes, tomato sorbet, Parmesan tuile. So almost impossible to plate, but the prep was unbelievable for it. And so I just, we got to 11 o'clock that day or 10:45, and I was so far behind that a sous chef almost couldn't even pull me out. And it was just insane. I got no help, and I don't know if it was a weed out thing or what. And so what lesson was being taught here? And of course, then the chef came in and just screamed at me for the entire lunch service, humiliated me. What the fuck are you doing? I still know some people at the CIA. I can probably get you a refund. Chef Gesualdi, who sent you here, did he even work a single day with you? So just abuse. So what lesson was being taught right then? Was the chef saying, I'm right because I'm the boss, and even though you think you should have had help from your commis or from a sous chef or from 2 sous chefs doing it, that doesn't matter. You're wrong because you're not the boss? Or was it more of a like Mr. Miyagi teaching where you think that you're learning about peeling cherry tomatoes, but you're actually learning about time management? Was it that sort of lesson? So, and I just crashed and burned. I didn't understand what the sous chef was doing. It ruined his Friday. It ruined his entire day as well. And so that was just a monster day that I'll never forget. And I wonder why that chef in that kitchen decided to make it so hard. And that's what I want to explore today. Now, experience is a cruel teacher. She gives you the test first and the lessons later. So over the past few months of podcasts, I have cited that quotation at the beginning of just about every one. It's poignant, it's pithy, it's often true in the restaurant industry and in a lot of situations where seeing the new guy fail, flounder, or even hurt himself a little bit is funny, right? I mean, the ritual hazing of rookies in professional sports, the rookies even on NFL teams with $1 million contracts have to carry the gear for everybody else. Pledges and college Greek life, we all know how bad that is and how awful that hazing is. Like it or not, that is part of the program. That's the price of admission. Sure, like country clubs might seem a lot more civilized than fraternities, but even they serve up their own kind of pain to newbies in the form of initiation fees. A rite of passage appears in nearly every portal of society worth going through. So I started the restaurant industry after a conversation with a chef colleague of mine who's about the same age. We'd come up through the ranks together for a while, separately for much longer and for decades, following parallel paths that branched apart but grew ever upward in the restaurant industry. And so we bemoaned, as I'm sure the silverbacks of all professions do and have from time immemorial, not just the lack of hustle, but the lack of grit that we feel like we generally see in the line cooks of the next generation. And I know every generation has said this, yes. But the mathematical truth is that, of course, most of the cooks who worked in the kitchens with the two of us in the 90s and the aughts moved on to other careers years ago. The best ones are still cooking or running restaurants. Several are consulting. Others have transitioned into sales jobs for wine vendors or broadline food suppliers. And of course, in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, some are mathematicians, some are carpenters' wives. I don't know how it all got started. Don't know what they do with their lives. If you are enjoying the Restaurant Incubator, if you are getting some use out of these podcasts, and you need a little bit of help with the business side of things in the restaurant business, click the link in the show notes. I've built some digital tools that I think can help you out. So what did any of us take from our experience in these top flight kitchens? Let's assume for the sake of argument that Homo sapiens evolved to survive and survive alone. And once we'd largely ceased to be nomads, we stopped evolving altogether because our basic needs for survival were met. If we followed this path of logic, and just come down it a little ways with me, y'all. If we follow this path of logic, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a fallacy, and we don't, in fact, seek meaning or self-actualization. We're just bored with big brains. Of what use is cooking experience or any professional pursuit other than a better way to pass the time than scratching out stories on cave walls and making sure the fire doesn't go out? Stay with me here. What are the lessons that my colleague and I learned from our professional cooking experiences? I think we learned to survive. Those bereft but lucky souls who have never worked in a restaurant don't understand the pressure of getting ready for service every single day. The show really must go on. Survival today gives the business, and therefore each crew member, the chance to keep our jobs. There isn't some far-off corporate behemoth generating revenue with binary code. There's just us, using all five senses to create experiences for which guests will hand over money to other humans. We don't live to fight another day. We live to survive another day. Our consciousness remains in the present because there is no retreat and no quarter. Yes, you can quit, and then, well, you're dead to the rest of us. So I take plenty of heat from some online commenters who don't know me when I broadcast those kick the tires, light the fires, burn the boats articles and podcasts, the rah-rah, like testosterone-fueled stuff. But I genuinely feel those things. That still genuinely rises up my spine. I still feel that way, and I believe it. But you know what? It takes massive effort and total commitment to even attempt to be great at anything. Many people are really good at what they do for a living. And lots more are what Danny Meyer calls whelmers, just good enough at what they do to not get fired for any sort of gross inadequacy, but far from good enough to advance from their current position or to inspire others. And most employers call them warm bodies, right? We are most definitely in a societal era when the end does not justify the means. You can't bullshit and backstab your way to the top of the brigade and crown yourself chef for life, because someone will have recorded the exploitation and abuse you dished out along the way, and the world will see it on YouTube. But there remain a starving few who still want to do it the hard way, and in the best kitchens, and that often means working for no pay. Some of the world's greatest restaurants, who weren't even hiding the practice to begin with, have been, quote, exposed for using unpaid kitchen workers as part of their brigades. I'll never be one to say, well, that's the right way to do it because that's the way it's always been done, damn it. But what these penny ante whistleblowers fail to realize is that every great chef that any of us has ever heard of worked for months and more likely years as an unpaid intern. At the very least, a working interview, which is basically cooking for free, is part of the tryout for an upper echelon kitchen job. And usually it's not a few hours or one day. It might be, listen to my podcast with Tom McNaughton. He had to work for Roland Passot for 2 weeks for free before he got a job offer. And that was this century. Oh, man. In fact, some people, your humble correspondent among them, will even pay to learn how to cook. And yet, I don't see the self-righteous trolls with their pitchforks outside the gates of the Culinary Institute of America or Aaron Franklin's masterclass on cooking brisket. Why do they want to destroy restaurants who aren't charging people to learn to cook? So restaurant people generally use the French word stagiaire for that unpaid intern position, shortened to stage and used interchangeably as a noun and a verb. Insurance liability practices complicate that stage process somewhat. I mean, I had to sign more than a few boilerplate insurance waivers before being allowed to work for free in high-octane kitchens on my own way up. When I worked for free at Restaurante Arzac in San Sebastian, Spain, there were so many stagiaires there that the hired cooks made sure to tell us, "I'm paid to work here," in Basque or Spanish, of course, when we introduced ourselves to them. I believe that what the critics are blind to is the difference between a pit mine and a watchmaker's shop. In the pit mine, the bosses are at the top waiting to pry blood diamonds out of the hands of abused, nearly enslaved workers who risk their lives to dig and climb out and are left with no experience on which to build any sort of career when their tenure is done. But at the watchmaker's shop, the horologist, bent over a table of tiny springs and lenses and gears, isn't paying his apprentice at all. He might not even be talking to him that much. He is passing down not only practical skills, but, especially if he's a master, the entire craft from his artisanal family tree. The same goes for stonemasons, luthiers, and chefs. Respect is the currency of the professional kitchen. Status can't be bought or faked. The best cooks have been in the crucible of the toughest kitchens, plain and simple. When I was in those kitchens, there were so many times when I wanted to quit, but I somehow refused to let the person who was intimidating me or humiliating me or running me ragged win. I don't know what motivation keeps others plowing forward in those same circumstances, and my internal motivation seems kind of immature and one note when I say it out loud like this. But while victory was clearly impossible, I also refused to leave in defeat. Now that I'm the boss, I always want the new guy in the kitchen to succeed. I probably want that too badly. I've been too quick to promote, too slow to fire, and too lax with standards at times. And I've ended up disappointed in no one but myself. I say to myself, truthfully, that staffing is just too difficult, and that if I fired everyone who wasn't up to the standard, I wouldn't have a crew left to run the kitchen. Likewise, I tell myself that on the other hand, if I were to rule these restaurants with an iron fist, none of the chefs and sous chefs would rise to their potential or take command of the kitchen in a manner in which they are capable. And I can't go back and take the other fork in the road and find out what would happen if I never, ever, ever let a standard slip. I'd probably be satisfied, proud, miserable, and alone. I told myself about 25 years ago that I would never treat my cooks the way that I was being treated if I ever became the Jefe Grande, and I never have. I honestly wonder if I'm doing them a disservice by not becoming the archetypal culinary monster that I worked for in my 20s. I'll never know. I'm eager to see who they will become and how they will describe their own experience. If you enjoyed today's episode, listen, we don't advertise, we don't accept sponsors. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please forward it to 2 friends who have a bright future in the restaurant industry. Thanks, y'all. Stay humble, stay hungry.